choose somebody, then there's a public hearing and some resolutions that you got to go through. It's about a 60-day process. Now the killer, or not the killer of this thing, but just for your information, each year the county has $10 million worth of tax-exempt bank qualified issuance. Of course, this year got most of that left. Next year, if the school system has anything, if it's $5 or $7 million, then you're competing with that. So you've really got to set your priorities and a schedule of, if you're wanting to borrow money, of where we're going.
So if we do it this year, when do we have to have it, make the decision, have it in?
I think by this month's October 9th meeting, you would have to tell the staff to get the advertisement ready and give them 30 days, and then you get it in, and in December you can close then. That's the best we can do.
So what do you have to do? RFP, and then once you get the results, you have to have a public hearing?
Not on the results. You can accept those, but before we actually borrow the money,
Okay.
you have to have a public hearing and pass a bond resolution. And during all that process, you would have to budget this money. It's not in this year's budget. So that public hearing would be a two-pronged, amend and appropriate, and also to borrow the money. My feelings are that you'll get it less than the quotes in here. How much? So this is probably the worst case. But that's another decision y'all as a board will need to make, and based off the information we've provided. I guess the other issue, and I'll play county attorney since he's not here to talk about creating an authority. I'll his number, see where he's at.
If we stick with the discussion about the money, we have a banker with us. Artie, is there anything that you know of that would lead us to believe that the feds are not going to follow through with some kind of rate increase in the year? And if you move now, this could be the smartest move you've made. And if a year from now, we might not be able to find money anywhere in this ballpark, and that's the question.
No, I thought they were going to raise them in September. When they didn't, the market fell. Because, I mean, what the message the Fed is sending is we are still in recessionary type monetary environment, which we're not. We shouldn't be at this point. So there's a big debate about that, and the global economic picture always seems to win out. The gloom and doom that if they increase the rates, China's going to go to the pot and everything else. But I mean, they've been saying it for a year, and I think Yellen has already made some speeches since they met where she's explained that's going to happen. But she's done it before, and they didn't do it. But I would say it's a higher likelihood it's going to happen in December than it won't happen. That's my opinion, but.
Well, we would be pushed to have a commitment by December anyway, wouldn't we?
Do what?
Would we be pushed to have a commitment by December if the Fed meets again in December? And this will be a small one, but it won't be the last one.
Well, I think it's all right. It's just like what Slell said. They're pricing it into their offer that that's going to happen. And the banks should be doing that as well pricing the expectation that that's going to happen. So I don't know that it's going to be substantially lower. Probably the bank's going to price it in that that's a potential or probability of happening.
Just like they done the first one.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the rate is going to be, like on these, the rate for the 20 year is longer than the 10 or the 15 because there's more risk the more you run it out. So. But 3.5 for 20, that ain't I mean, that won't be a bad rate probably 5 years from now.
Corey, if you look on the second page on the back of each one of those, the answer to your questions on the second page of each. So $650,000 on interest over 15 years, difference between 20 and 15. And the real issue, I guess, is the first year that you, in 2016-17, that you'd be paying on this, because in the way this thing's amortized, the first year you're only going to pay the interest, $20,000. It'd be a year and a half before you started paying principal and interest. Trying to give you some breathing room so that you could develop a budget and include it in next year's budget, because it's not in this year's budget. And that was one of the parameters I gave the lending institutes.
Are the proceeds from a bond issue like a commercial bank loan? If you don't use it, you don't pay interest on it, or are you paying on the total principal from day one?
On this one, you get the money, you'll pay the interest you'll have the money. So you're going to pay interest.
But with your drawdown, you can invest that money?
Yes.
So you could have an offsetting number there where it's really not costing us for unused money.
Currently, that if you invested with National Bank, we're getting about 1.8%. It's the difference between 1.8 and 3.25, or whatever that number is there. Yep.
Yeah, that's my question. It's not restricted that you can't put it back in the bank and start drawing interest on it.
You just can't make more money than you shouldn't be making more. You'll have, if you make more money, invest it, than you're paying, then you got those arbitrage problems.
That's what I was getting at. But as long as it's less or equal, you don't have a problem.
Right.
Well, if this bid thing happens, it's not unreasonable to believe that as the bottom goes up, the return ought to go up. Maybe not 1 for 1, but it ought to certainly increase. Look at that banker shaking his head. Can't do like a bobblehead, can you?
It'll probably trail.
It'll trail, but it should move, shouldn't it?
Well, my understanding of this whole thing, though, Joe, is that if you borrow this money, we've got to have it, we want it spent in a year, less than a year, so this thing can be up and running. You don't want to be holding that money. I mean, if we're just holding money, let's borrow smaller amounts each year and based off a drawdown schedule and have a bunch of smaller payments.
Well, that's really why I'm in favor of the 5 number instead of a grand number. I think 5 will do the phase 1. I really believe that. And your actual total payout will be more toward the end than at the front, the reason I was asking that question.
Well, I understand that, but the reality of what I've heard you talk about as a board, that once we start this thing, we've got to get it built
And finish.
and finish it so that you can start having a return on your investment through the building.
Right.
That if you just drag it out over an extended period of time trying to make a few dollars on interest, you're really losing momentum. And
But if we do that, you know, we got $750 from the Tobacco Commission this time. We apply in January. I mean, how long do you estimate it's going to take to build it out for? How many more grant cycles?
Really, the only thing you've got is a metal building. I'm going to make it simple. The grading is going to take longer than it will to erect the building, and erecting the building will be finished, and the inside work will take what little bit there is. Will take about as long as it does to erect the building. The electrical, the sprinkler, the light, plumbing, and that kind of stuff. I mean, this kind of facility should be built in less than a year, unless we get stuck in trying to do some grading in the middle of the winter. But a facility like this, if you have the plans laid out, you know the footer elevation. For the footers, you can erect the building in the middle of the winter. I mean, this thing, in my opinion, Joe's the expert, but in my opinion, you should be finished by next fall. It's critical you be finished.
I agree with that.
I mean, you're talking about the main building. You're not talking about the total.
Well, I'm talking about everything.
Everything?
I think Tim is alluding, don't want to jump in here on you, but that we might get ahead of the funding. And this borrowed money, if we make it clear that it's like a construction loan, I don't think that ought to, but who knows, that ought to influence the Tobacco Commission to not continue to fund us. Although they did
Well,
take,
in light of that revelation,
yeah, that's what we're really talking about here.
if you're talking about that revelation, you build your big building and your entrance to it and
Parking lot.
and then go after the other money for the barn, etc. Because there's no reason you can't put up temporary stalls and stuff outside for a period of time. And I forget the cost of a barn was.
I remember what our budget cost was, but let's talk about real cost.
$1 million then.
Okay, that's the budget price.
Yeah. So that doesn't get you even, that doesn't present a problem with the next round, the January round of Tobacco Commission. That doesn't present a problem really with next fall or August, it presents the problem 3 cycles away if you're looking at past 3 cycles. Right?
Right, and there's another scenario to that. If we could think a minute for scrutiny and for economy, we can consolidate all the buildings in the plan into the arena building footprint, except the barn. In other words, the office that's in that budget, that can become one of those add-ons that we can get very cheaply if we add 30,000 square foot to the 60,000. All that fit-out money for that can be out there past next fall. We got to have an office. We got to have some meeting rooms. We got some rental space that will help pay the debt service. But let's just take that other 15,000 foot side, just so it's dried in, got some temporary lighting and a main in it. You can spend a lot of money fitting out rental space or office space, similar to what they've got in Pennsylvania County. We got to get the shell up and be able to have an event and have the wow factor. But what's in that shed can be where you're going to spend money next winter or the spring after if it becomes necessary to stay. Normally we stay ahead of the curve. This time we want to stay behind the curve to offset that revelation that happened last Wednesday.
Mr. Chairman, can I want to offer an alternative, and yeah, I'll say it, and then you all can tell me no when I finish. When this group first came to us several years ago, the only thing that they were wanting was land. They said that if they had land, they could take it from there. Well, right now, we have land. We have land that we paid for out of a reserve fund. So what I propose is something along these lines. Is that last meeting we voted to form the authority. All right, so we formed the authority. Lease the land to them for a period of 25 years with no lease payment being due for the first 5 years. Then for the next 20 years, somewhere around a lease payment of $65,000 a year, which would pay the county back for the amount of money that we spent for the land. At the end of that 25 years, we can sell them the land back for a nominal fee, and it gets back into the tax revenue. But that way, taxpayers in Wythe County are not out money for it. It will take a while to recoup, but they're not out the money for it. Plus the fact that this group said that if they had land, they could take it and they could go with it. What I'm afraid what I'm hearing is that the county is going to build it. The county is going to want to be involved in running it, and it's going to be a little bit like the old commercial with potato chips. You can't just eat one. It will keep getting more and more and more, and that way that puts they have the land. It puts the onus on them. We recoup the cost. Then if they develop it, all the peripheral benefits that we're looking at, if hotels come or if restaurants come or whatever, whether we build it or whether they build it, it'll still be here. And that way, it really would end up being no cost to the county, except I would recommend an in-kind contribution of installing water lines and sewer lines. But we're talking about a lot of money. Actually, we're talking about money close to the amount that that the county put into Progress Park, aren't we? What did the county end up in Progress Park? About $8 million. I mean, not grants and things like that, but county. Lot 24. What did I say? I'm sorry. Lot 24. Okay. All right. So, we're looking at, getting close to, to that amount of money. That way, we provide the land,